Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you are brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And today we are building another family home. It is actually right next door to the adopted family home that went up on the channel maybe like a week or two ago. At this point, these could be posted all out of order because I pre-record like a madwoman, but this is most likely going to be called a dream family home, and that is because I have just been sucked into thinking of my dream home. So for transparency, my husband and I are currently house hunting, and it is partially fun and also super stressful just because the market is crazy right now, and it's gotten me thinking about what my ideal end game dream home would be. So I'm not talking like starter home, which is absolutely what we're looking for. I'm thinking we're in our 40s, 50s, something like that, and we have finally gotten like the dream house that we want to stay in until the day we die. But this is a 3-bedroom, I want to say either 2 or 3 bathroom home. I can't remember how many bathrooms exactly. I just know that there is at least 1 full bathroom upstairs and 1 downstairs, which is kind of convenient. And the shape of the house itself is actually pretty simple. It's rather boxy, I think, compared to even some of my other homes, but I do really like the shape and I really like how it came together. I was originally trying to do another base game home, but I decided to just kind of go crazy with the packs again because I kind of go back and forth between base game restricted stuff and just using all of the packs that I have in game. And for a dream family home, I felt as though I needed to use all the packs that I had. So the shape of the house is pretty much together at this point. We are starting to work on the landscaping, which I really did like. I loved it so much, and I actually really liked using a lot of brick details on the exterior of this home. My goal originally, so aside from wanting to do base game, I wanted to really use those columns from Get Famous because they do look like what I would just consider like those are the stereotypical bungalow columns, and that's not necessarily fair because a bungalow style home doesn't mean that it's going to have those columns. Maybe they're more so craftsman style, I'm not sure, but they came with Get Famous and they have brick details at the bottom, which I really liked, so I wanted to kind of match that in the siding that I ended up using for this home. And I did end up swapping out the flower boxes for a little bit of a pop of red. I have been using those flower boxes from Discover University for what feels like a very long time now. I gravitate towards them over any of the others, and I just felt like I needed a change of pace. So I ended up using these base game ones, and I was going to use these light posts to kind of create a little bit of an entryway here, but I ended up using this arch, and I did use a few different debug plants to kind of try to make it look like they were growing up the sides. The vines here, or the ivy I should say, that I end up putting all over this house, I tried to use it on that little archway, but it really just didn't work. I ended up putting it on the sides of the house though, just to give it a little bit more detail, a little bit more character. I haven't used this ivy in what feels like a very long time too, because it is from the debug menu for Discover University, and I just don't dive into that too often, so it was really kind of refreshing to find that item again. So then I used these debug shrubs and tried to make it look like it was growing up the side of this. I don't know if it really worked, but I kind of liked the way it looked, so I did keep it. And then I put hedges all along the side here because this path leads to a fenced-in backyard. I've been doing that quite a lot lately, where I have like a path from the front door, wraps around the side of the house, and then leads to a fenced-in portion of a backyard. I just really like that detail. It's something that I wish to have when I own a home. That's basically what this entire build is like, what would I want in a home? Well, this is kind of it. And oddly enough, this is actually the very first build that I did with bunk beds when we got that update. And since I made this build, I actually put like 2 or 3 others with bunk beds on the channel already. So you guys are seeing the first time I'm using bunk beds after I've already used them in other builds, if that makes any sense. I've done like a few apartments now with them, or a build or 2, I'm not really sure. I'm kind of losing track of time. I build so often, and sometimes I record out of order. So I might record a build, but I don't necessarily do the voiceover for a couple of weeks, just depending on the time that I have to dedicate towards it, or honestly just forgetting about builds sometimes that I have ready to go. And this build was the very first one I did with bunk beds, but since then I have actually done like a few apartments with bunk beds and a couple of other videos, and I just hadn't done the voiceover for this one yet, and I was like really embarrassed going into my own footage and being like, how did I even forget temporarily about this build? Like my mind was blown. So Hopefully that makes sense, but we are obviously onto the interior at this point, working on the living room first, which I really, really enjoyed. It is the couch, honestly. I think it's the couch. I haven't used that in a good chunk of time. At least it feels that way. And I haven't used it in that swatch for a little bit. So it was really exciting to just grab it and say, okay, I'm going to now plan the rest of the room, at least. Maybe not the entire build, but at least this room around that couch. And I thought it ended up working really nicely because I tried to use some darker wood tones partnered up with some white wood tones as well. I thought that everything came together really nicely, and I used a good share of parenthood items that I just don't use that often, such as this bigger coffee table, because everything is so big in The Sims 4. So I was really excited to be able to use it here. My sim was able to access the fireplace without issue. So hopefully if you guys download this build, that's not going to be a problem. But I'm just adding some clutter to the coffee table here. I ended up going into the debug menu and pulling out, I think that's called like an instructional book, and technically it's what your Sims will pull out if they're at the building block table that came with Parenthood, but I thought it was a nice decoration item. And of course there are a few different decorative items on top of the mantle here. I end up putting a bookcase over here in the corner. I went to the tried and true cats and dogs bookcase that I gravitate towards all the time just because I thought it looked the best, but I put a little kid armchair there as well. So that does mean that that bookcase is going to have some routing issues, but at least one of the bookcases on top of the mantle worked for my playtest sim, so that was really good. I was a little bit worried about that because I have like, 3 technically bookcases in this room now, and your Sims can't access any of them. That sounds silly, but at least one of them worked. And then we end up working on the entryway, which was a little bit cramped. I ended up putting a console table behind this couch and just decorating it with a few more items, which I thought looked a little bit funny at first, only because the living room was already so cluttered. I felt like it was almost a bit overwhelming, but I kind of just went with it. I put a little backpack on top of this chair here, this dining chair, which I thought was a really cute detail. Since there are 3 bedrooms in this home, 2 of them actually are for children. One of them is for a set of what I would think twins, and then the other is a teenager. So they've got 2 kids and a teenager in this home. So I would assume that there would be plenty of kids things all over the place with that many young people in the house. Oh, and that flower arrangement, I have been meaning to say this in builds that I've been using it in. That is from the Country Kitchen Kit, and I use it in almost every single build now. I can't even express to you how much I love it. I'm just realizing how much I use it now, and it's showing up in almost every single build or renovation that I do. So I needed to emphasize like how much I freaking love that flower. And then over here, I just ended up putting a few half walls near the columns, and we move into this space, which ends up being the formal dining room. And it's a decently sized room. I was a bit surprised as to the fact that I could actually fit one of the longer dining room tables in here, as well as 6 chairs. And then tucked behind that wall was actually the staircase that leads to the 2nd floor. So it was kind of out of the way, which is really nice. And then we move on to the kitchen. And now let me just tell y'all a story. This kitchen, I did this kitchen 3 times. And I mean, I filmed it 3 times, thinking that it was done every single time I filmed, and I'll explain why. So as you've noticed, I have been using the Dove Reshade preset for my actual build footage compared to just screenshots lately. Now, since this was the very first build I did with bunk beds, this was actually the very first build that I ended up using this preset for. And therefore, when I went back to film like a day or 2 later, I had completely forgotten that I switched presets, and I filmed this kitchen, like basically the entire first floor almost. I filmed the entire thing with my original Light Brigade preset like 2 or 3 times. I almost lost my mind. I was like, I can't piece together these chunks of footage with different presets. It's gonna look funny. Like, I can't do it. I was so mad at myself for doing it. So basically I went in and I had to take screenshots of every single detail and make sure that I could put everything back exactly the way it was. So this is actually my 3rd time filming the kitchen, which is completely crazy. But now that I'm watching it back, I'm very glad that I took the time to do that, to match the preset footage because it would have looked so funny if it was different. But I thought that would be kind of a fun detail for you guys. It can take a very long time to do builds like this, especially if you mess up like I did. But anyway, I was picturing this family had 2 dogs as well. So I had the 2 pet bowls in the kitchen. And then in that little kind of like back breezeway, there are a few like dog treats and that shelf from Cats and Dogs that has like the leashes and stuff hanging on it, which I thought was really cute. And that is the full bathroom downstairs. And we end up moving on to the 2nd floor. So there is only, I think, 1 full bathroom up here. So it is a 3-bed, 2-bath. But that bathroom upstairs is kind of like nestled in between 2 bedrooms, which is a little bit odd. I was kind of surprised that I was able to make it work. But when you walk upstairs, there's kind of like this little landing area where I added this wardrobe because it looks as though it has just a ton of like towels and linens and things. I thought it was a great, I don't know, touch of realism for some extra storage because obviously our Sims don't really store anything anywhere, but it looked realistic. And then there's a chess table here in the hallway. And then right off of this little landing space is the master bedroom. But the very first bedroom we work on is for the twins. And I think that these twins, whether they are girls, boys, it does not matter whatsoever. I just think that they absolutely love the color blue. That's pretty much all I went with. And that is my first use of the bunk beds. I was very excited about it. I ended up just going with the pure white ones because I thought it would work really well with the blue color scheme that I had in mind. I just went all out with anything blue, anything kid-like, and actually there's a little bit like of an aquatic theme in this room, I realized, because I used this wallpaper from Parenthood with the fish, and then I used the rug with the fish on it, which is kind of funny. I didn't do that consciously, which is weird. And then over here, I ended up doing this desk trick once again, so both of these children could have their own little space and built-in desk to do homework. Now, these kids are very lucky. They both have their own laptops, which is kind of wild. I didn't get my own computer until I was maybe like 12 or 13, and it was like a chunky desktop that didn't have internet access. I think I've mentioned this before. I was only allowed on it to like use Microsoft Word if I had to do homework or something like that. So seeing these kids here with their laptops, which of course in The Sims just automatically have internet access, that's pretty darn lucky if I do say so myself. And then I just add a few clutter items to the bookshelf here, add a few more toys and things, and then I move on to this little kind of hallway between the twins' room and then the teenagers' room because I didn't want one entrance to one bedroom to be off the other one, if that one makes sense. And now this teen loves the color purple and loves the color black, but more often than not, I see very vibrant combinations of those 2 colors, and I wanted to kind of keep things a little bit muted, which is difficult because I think that the color combination is quite bold. So I ended up using the lofted bed, and I did test this out prior to uploading this to the gallery. So you guys can rest assured that this little desk underneath the lofted bed works perfectly. It doesn't block the bed or anything. Basically what we've seen is that if you put anything in the same square as the ladder of a lofted bed, it just will not work. It'll block it. And I think this teen is also very much into music and yoga. And I was picturing a teenage girl in this room. Like I said, the twins, I am not sure if this teenage girl basically has like 2 little brothers or 2 little sisters or 1 little sister, 1 little brother. Again, it doesn't matter, but I was picturing a teenage girl in this room, and I just wanted to emphasize that because I really did try to decorate the room around her personality. So she's really into music. She loves makeup. She really enjoys writing in her diary, like more than maybe your average child or teen. She takes it really seriously. Like she writes in her journal every single day, morning and night, to kind of start her day off scribbling away and then ending her day kind of collecting her thoughts and whatnot. But this ends up being the other full bathroom on the 2nd story. There is almost a double sink. It's just kind of like an extended counter space at the sink. There's the shower tub combo, and then of course a toilet, everything that your Sim needs to, do their business. And I actually ended up adding a few more details to this bathtub. I just kind of felt like it. I was in the mood. I don't really know what came over me, but I added a few different like bottles that kind of look like shampoo bottles. I added the soap thing that actually does look like 2 shampoo bottles, like a shampoo bottle or conditioner on the wall, and just a few other miscellaneous things, including a rubber duck, just because there are kids in this home. And I don't know why. I just really wanted to highlight that because that shower is perfect to be able to add details like that because you can see inside the tub. But this ends up being the parents' room, which I use this beautiful bed from Eco Lifestyle that I as of late can't stay away from. I apologize if I overuse it. I just started getting back in the groove of using it and now I can't stop. But their room is very plainly decorated. They do have a dresser over here on the wall. They have a mirror as well. And then I think it's just kind of clutter on top of the wardrobe, maybe a piece of artwork or two. Possibly an armchair. I kind of like stumbled over that. I use armchairs to basically fill empty spaces as well as plants. So you get a chair and you get a plant and you get a chair and you get a plant. Like that's pretty much how I decorate my rooms at this point. I'm trying to figure out other things to use, but that's what I've been using as of late. But I also added a few more details to the bathroom there, and then I end up cluttering up the dresser, as I said earlier, again with that flower arrangement from the Country Kitchen kit. I didn't realize I used it twice. That's almost embarrassing, but I love it so much that I'm not going to allow it to embarrass me. I love it, and I can't stop using it in all of its different swatches. The last space that we end up working on is going to be the backyard, and it is a fenced-in backyard, which ended up being really, really big. I say that now, but of course, once I start landscaping, I always end up shrinking the space in backyards so much because landscaping can take up a lot of space, at least the way that I do it. I can't be tamed. I'm sorry, my landscaping is what it is. I love it. It looks overgrown and messy and crazy, and I can't stop. But I ended up bringing these hedges through to the backyard, and then I think part of the backyard is just going to be grass, and the other part is going to be this stone tile from Jungle Adventure that I used to make the pathway from the front door to the back door originally. And then I also used a few debug plants from the Discover University debug menu, which is why it kind of took me a little bit longer to do the landscaping back here. I had to like go back through and comb through the menu and try to find the exact plants that I wanted. I also wanted to make it look a little bit more random and less manicured than I was originally envisioning it. And I wanted to add a few more trees because I do like some shade in the backyards. But this is going to be the tiled area of the backyard. There are going to be a few gardening plots. I believe a swing set because I don't like using the monkey bars. I don't think it's realistic to have monkey bars compared to swings, and therefore I don't like placing them in my builds. Unless, of course, I am doing a base game only home, but that is not what this is. So here are a few of the gardening plots that I end up placing here. I kind of adjust the tile a little bit here and there. They also have an outdoor dining table. I believe I give them a grill as well because that just kind of makes sense. And then I fenced in a few different areas of landscaping as well. I think there's a bike. I ended up giving them a sprinkler, but I do end up removing it just because I wanted to place a outside bench of some kind and just decorate it a little bit more because it was such a big space that I'm not used to. All in all though, I just really like how this backyard came out. It's not overly decorated, but it still looks pretty cozy and I don't know, a little bit more full of life. Like there are activities to do outside, and I think the landscaping looks a little bit more lively than it could. It could look kind of dull, I think. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. This has been the longest voiceover that I've done in a little while now. So thanks for bearing with me for another rambly voiceover from yours truly, but we're pretty much coming up to the end of the build here. So I hope you guys did enjoy this one, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Yesterday, your smile, your style so fly, my oh my. As time stood still, I got the urge to steal a kiss, and so I did. Now I'm embarrassed, but just a little bit.